A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello and welcome. We're going to review Star Wars Episode VII, The Force Awakens. It's a new movie that's in theaters.
Is it the new Star Trek movie?
Nope, but it's made by the guy that made the Star Trek movies, J.J. Abrams.
Oh.
Easily confused.
And we're just going to talk about it, and this video is going to be really long. And if you don't care about the new Star Wars film, you're wrong. And if you do, and you care what we happen to think, we're just gonna just talk and just review.
Lots of spoilers.
Lots of spoilers.
Spoilers. We're gonna just talk about the movie.
Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna say a spoiler right now.
Okay.
It's fine. You ready?
Yeah.
But this is your chance to stop watching
Give
right
a couple
now.
seconds.
Okay.
Stop. Get out.
Ready?
Yep.
Vader's Luke's father.
That's a spoiler for a different movie.
Oh,
We're
wait.
talking about The Force Awakens.
Oh,
we can spoil Episode 7, but not 1 through 6.
Han dies.
Han does. How do you feel about that?
I think it's justified.
Yeah, I think the way it was done was great, but I'm pissed.
There's no way Harrison Ford wanted to keep making Star Wars movies. Because Harrison Ford originally wanted to die in Episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like 30
Didn't
years
they
ago.
freeze him in carbonite because they didn't know if he was even going to do 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was only signing contracts 1 movie at a time. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher signed a 3-movie contract.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll sign for 1.
Yeah.
I'll do it the next one. And they froze him, and they actually didn't know if he was going to do Return of
But
the Jedi.
also, he's old, and, he's gonna die in real life eventually, so...
Wow.
I don't think
Might as well.
I don't think that's true.
70
Might as
is
well.
pretty... The older I get, the more I realize, like, how young older people are.
Yeah.
Like, when I was, like, 10, I was like, wow, like, 30-year-olds. And now that I'm 30, I'm like, 60's still pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
And, then, he's 72, 73?
Is he really? I don't know
Is
he
he?
was that old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty old.
That's young.
That's young. No, the whole point is that that's young.
Yeah.
So I've seen the movie 5 times. How many times have you seen it?
2.
2?
3?
3.
Yeah.
So, the first time I saw... That's what stands out the most, is that Han dies. And the first time I saw it, after I saw the movie, that night, as I was laying in bed thinking about it, I was really disappointed because I was thinking about Han Solo's life. And I read all the books and the comics, and I was thinking about young Han and, episode 4, 5, 6 Han and past that, and he dies in such a disappointing way. He goes to his son, and he fails, and he dies, and that's it for Han. That's it. That's the end of his
I wouldn't say you failed.
life.
But you think that was disappointing the way he died?
I thought it was disappointing the first time I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Because he just... Like, for episode 6, he wanted to, like, sacrifice himself to, like, save his friends.
Right,
And he gets, like, a hero's death. It's like, I'm gonna die, but in my death I've accomplished something. And I was like, in his death, he, like, made the bad guy bad. Like, he didn't... Leia was like, bring your son home, and he failed.
But he did manage to reach out and touch him, just like...
But
Not just physically, but I mean, like, emotionally.
Just a little...
But really, what you may have already realized is that he died kind of on his own terms. It wasn't like an accident in a battle. It wasn't like, oh, I failed a battle.
Right.
He went into this knowing that he was going to very possibly die.
Yeah.
And he kind of just let it happen.
Yeah.
It's like he went into that with like a 50-50 shot. Like
Right.
in the way that Han would. Like
Yeah.
standing up to his son, like this is my last chance to get
Yeah.
my. Oh, also Kylo Ren is Han's son. If you're still
Spoiler.
watching, if you're still watching at this point, you really don't care about spoilers.
Yeah. I loved the lighting because when they're out on the bridge with the shot of Kylo Ren, the right side of his face is red,
Right.
and the left side has a blue tint. And there's a line that Poe Dameron has when they first arrive at the planet, and it's this really kind of line of exposition where he goes, they're flying, and he's like, remember, squad, like, as long as the sun is still in the sky, there's time. As long as there's light, we have a chance. And you can take that as the word sun, like S-U-N, but also sun, like, as long as the sun, as long as there's still light, we have a chance. And then later, it's right when that sun goes out.
Yeah, you could see it
and then you see
eyes.
the blue fade from his face, and he goes to only red. And that's when he kills Han, and they lose their chance.
But I think he was like, when he handed him the lightsaber, he was like, I think I'm actually going to be good. Like, there was that moment of, like, he didn't actually know what he wanted to do.
I love in the movie, it was such an interesting thing to think that he felt the call to the light side.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, imagine being, like, mostly evil, but being like, there's this feeling that I should probably be good.
I like him as a villain more than Vader. I like him as a villain more than any
Yeah.
other Star Wars character because he has a conflict of trying to be a villain rather than and having a pull to the light.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because he wants to be a villain.
Yeah.
But like Vader, he didn't want to be the villain.
He just is.
He just
is.
Yeah.
But Kylo Ren is like, I want to be the villain. Make me the villain.
Yeah.
Ah.
And so when I came out of my first screening, I was talking to like just people that had seen it there with me, and I said, "Where's Adam Driver? I need to go like kill him." But there's something about Kylo Ren that I hate, and I never hated Vader.
Right.
Like, Vader's a bad guy, and he's just like, I'm the bad guy, and I'm scary, and he is. But I never like hated Vader.
Yeah, Vader didn't do as many evil things as
No.
Kylo Ren
Well,
does.
I mean, Anakin did.
Anakin did, and you kind of hate Anakin.
I assume the prequels didn't exist.
Okay.
But
They're okay.
Vader does. He is partially responsible for the destruction of Alderaan.
Yep.
Which is a big deal.
That was more of a Tarkin thing, though.
Yeah, more of a Tarkin thing. What
fair.
else? Does he kill anyone in?
He kills his own guys.
In A New Hope. Does
He's
he
just
actually
killing
kill
bad
anyone?
Not
guys.
in A New Hope.
He just kills bad guys.
Yeah, he doesn't really kill
He
anyone.
chokes his own guy.
He starts choking him, but he doesn't actually kill anyone.
No.
In the very opening scene of The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren orders all the troops to kill all these innocent people in a town.
Sure.
Or aliens, or whatever they are.
Yeah.
So could it be argued that Darth Vader kills more bad guys than good guys? I'd have to rewatch to see how many good guys he kills. But
He like slaughtered a bunch of younglings.
But yeah, but that's
If we're not counting
I would say
that.
that's Anakin.
Like on-screen death, movie only. I think Kylo Ren in the first 10 minutes of The Force Awakens killed more people than
I
Vader
remember
ever.
really,
Probably.
when that happened, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
now I really think he's bad. This is great.
Yeah.
And then like, what else terrible does he does? I mean, he kills Han, which makes you really think he's evil.
When he reads people's minds, Darth Vader does that to Luke in Episode 6. Luke's in hiding and he's like, so, you have a sister. If you don't turn to the dark side, perhaps she will. And Vader doesn't have to like try really hard.
Right.
He can just do it. It's just, I can read your mind and you're screwed. And Kylo Ren has to try really hard and is like hurting you. Which I think is not a sign of him being super evil, it's a sign of him like sucking at like reading people's minds.
As in, it shouldn't be that painful.
Yeah, like it doesn't need to cause you a headache. It's fine that it does, but it's like he like has trouble pulling the lightsaber with the Force. He has trouble reading people's minds, whereas
Right.
Vader would just walk in there and be like, "Oh, the plans are here," and like not have.
I don't
any-
know though. Does what Kylo Ren's going for? Is it more detailed than what Vader does though? Vader's sort of like, you have a sister, and it seems more vague what the information he gets.
Okay,
where
maybe.
Kylo Ren is like, oh, you see the map, and he's also describing specifically the things that they're seeing in their mind.
And I love that.
good.
I noticed on my like second or third watch that when he's interrogating Rey, Daisy Ridley, he says like, you're alone, you're lonely, you're a scavenger, but then he says you see an ocean, you see an island, and then that's it, and then he just keeps talking, and that's obviously set up for the end of the film, which is her going to this ocean planet.
Spoiler.
Ireland.
Yeah.
And finding
Ireland, yeah.
and finding Luke.
They go to Ireland.
They go to Ireland.
It's really weird. They're not in the galaxy far, far away anymore.
The planet is called Ireland. It's,
Yeah. No.
and finding Luke, and that's like the ocean and the planet. So she's been having dreams about Luke.
But the ocean and the island is
Well-
also a metaphor for being like lonely. So like it works in more than one way.
But
It's
also-
like an ocean and an island.
But also, is it dreams? I mean, maybe it is dreams, but is it? There's an argument. Is it something from her past, or is it something like from her future? What is she dreaming?
I don't know, because Episode 5 had Luke like have visions,
Yeah,
and he's
vision.
like, I see a city in the clouds.
Right.
Always uncertain. The future is.
Yeah, and so the future is uncertain. She didn't necessarily have to go there. Like in Star Wars, it's not like whatever's going to happen is definitely going to happen.
Right.
Like Yoda
Yeah,
says, always
yeah.
in motion, the future is.
Oh, always in motion. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I'd
Yeah.
say it's
Yeah.
more of a vision because if she is Luke Skywalker's daughter, Luke would have dropped her off and then went to the planet, so she wouldn't have any memories of that planet.
Yeah.
So it would have to be connection with her father
Yeah.
visually.
So let's talk about that. Rey.
Right.
First of all, awesome character.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Daisy Ridley is incredible.
Carries the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, she's totally on the new hero.
Yeah.
She's the main character by far, and she's awesome.
Yep.
And she's really likable. And anyways, who is she? Who are you?
Who are you?
Which is from the trailer.
Yeah.
We've been saying that a lot.
Not in the movie.
There's a lot of stuff that's in the trailer that doesn't make it into the movie.
Yeah, there's the first time I watched the movie, I thought, well, she's got to be Kylo Ren's sister. She's got to be Han's daughter, Han and Leia's daughter. But the more I think about it, it's certainly possible that she's Luke's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that she's Obi-Wan's daughter. But it feels like she has some connection. It's a familial connection to someone, but they don't reveal who.
I don't think she could be Obi-Wan's daughter because he died
That's true.
before she would have been born.
Right.
Like
She's only
longer than
she's
9
20.
months
I guess.
before
Right.
she was
Right.
born.
Oh yeah. Okay. I wasn't doing the math.
But I at first had thought that maybe Obi-Wan had a daughter who wasn't Rey, and maybe
Let's call her
Granddaughter.
Mara.
Yeah.
Let's just say
That's a very
wouldn't be.
specific name.
Let's just say, and it wouldn't be this, but Ben had a daughter. Just for the sake of ease of conversation, let's just call her Mara.
okay.
Okay.
Mara Kenobi. Why not?
Okay.
And then Luke and Mara had a thing.
Yep.
And maybe had a child.
Yeah.
So you've got double force power in
Right.
the blood.
Yeah. That's
Um,
true.
Could be that.
Yeah.
But then I also like the idea that Rey is another child of Han and Leia, that maybe both of their kids were off studying with Luke.
They're
and
twins.
When Ben went crazy and killed everyone,
Ben Solo.
Kylo Ren. Yeah.
they thought that their daughter was also killed, so they just don't think that they have a daughter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
But
they
they
would
still
recognize her though.
Feel this connection.
Yeah.
Because there's the thing with Leia
Yeah.
and Rey at the end, and Han and Rey are finishing each other's sentences the whole movie.
Yeah.
Sandwiches.
Yeah. The second time watching the movie, it seemed very obvious to me that Han knew who Rey was.
Yeah.
Without saying it.
Yeah.
Like the way he reacted to her, the way they said the same things.
Yeah.
The way certain moments, like when Maz Kanata asks Han who she is after she leaves the
Who's
table.
the girl?
Who's the girl?
And it cuts.
And then it cuts. You don't even see Han's reaction. So, and then the next scene you see Maz, she's going to the girl and saying that she should take the lightsaber.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming Han said, "Oh, she's totally related to so and so, and
Right.
she should take the lightsaber,"
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
Han didn't know that Maz had the lightsaber.
Well, I don't know
Right.
if they said that exactly.
Right.
But,
So yeah, I think so. Two things that kind of exist outside of the movie. So in real life, not that Star Wars isn't real life, but one of the things
I thought it was
is
documentary.
that one of the plans for Episode 7 was the concept of handing Excalibur to the next generation. Like real world or mythological Excalibur. Like Kathleen Kennedy has said that. Like J.J. Abrams has said that. Mark Hamill has said that. Like a part of the story is, or like the theme behind it is passing down Excalibur. And then another thing is that, and this has been said, just kind of in real life, is that Kathleen Kennedy has shared that the Star Wars stories are about the next generation of Skywalker.
Like each trilogy.
Yeah, it's Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. I mean, you could argue, okay, well now it's Ben Solo, but I would think that really at the end of the day, like the opening crawl is Luke Skywalker has vanished, and so I think that while Mark Hamill is probably going to be Luke a lot in Episode 8, like he would probably be a main character the way Han was a main character, at the same time they need to set it up to phase Mark Hamill out, phase Carrie Fisher out, and have this new generation.
again, because old people do die.
Yeah.
So,
And
yes.
for Episode 9, and they do plan on keep going.
So then Episode 8.
Eventually there needs to be Skywalkers that aren't Luke, I would think.
So Luke's probably gonna die an Obi-Wan death.
Well, I find that interesting. A lot of people, there's not a lot of complaints about the movie, but the biggest complaint is probably that Episode 7 is very, very similar to Episode 4.
Yeah.
Like, really similar. And it starts on a desert planet, and there's a droid with plans, and everybody's after it. And then there's this big ship, super weapon, and then they gotta blow it up. Those are really kind of the only similarities, and yeah, I know those are like the big, like that's really huge.
The entire plot line is the same.
At the same time, it's more so like the story is looking for Luke Skywalker, and not there's a super weapon and R2 has the plans for a bad thing.
Right.
BB-8 has the plans for a good thing, and it's kind of combo with R2 and blah blah blah. What was I gonna say? But yeah, those are the only similarities that I see, and then when I start analyzing it, I see like a lot of differences. It's just coincidental, and I think originally like. That planet could have just been Tatooine, but it shouldn't be.
That would be too obvious.
Because it's too obvious, and Tatooine is supposed to be kind of this far-out, remote thing that, like, not a lot of stuff happens there. And then J.J. Abrams did a TED Talk. Again, this is like a real-life thing. Back in, I think it was like 2005, 2006, and you should go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's on the TED website.
With his about the box.
About the mystery box.
Yeah.
And he talks about his love of Episode 4 and the mystery, and that, when you're watching Episode 4, like, you don't know what's going to happen next. Right. And that being really important to him, and him being like, that's like, it's such a good story to me. Even if Episode 5 is seen as like the best Star Wars movie, you can't have a new Star Wars movie for the first time in a decade, and it like mirrors Episode 5.
No,
like that would be really
just
strange.
Episode 5, it might be my favorite Star Wars movie, but I do think it's a little unfair because Episode 5 requires Episode 4 and 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even need a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
Like a movie usually needs. So it's unfair that it gets to be the best one. But it probably is the best one.
Because it's just mostly character development,
Right.
but you need to like introduce those
Yeah.
characters.
The Force Awakens has to be a beginning.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have.
One would say an awakening.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Well, there's a part of me that philosophically, I think from reading the books and reading the comics and watching the trailers, that you have all of this expectation. And there is something about Episode 4 that you're just jumping into the story and you kind of hit the ground running and stuff's happening. Episode 7 isn't like that. And I'm glad that it's not, because it could have been.
I think it is a little bit.
For the past 30 years, things have been happening, and you're in the middle of some action, and you're just jumping into a story again kind of at random. But I find even the title of The Force Awakens and what the movie really is one by one, we're reintroducing those characters. So here is Rey, and nothing's been going on in her life. And here's Finn, and nothing's really been going on in his life. And then they kind of have this, they accidentally end up in each other's lives. And then what I love, and kind of the first reveal is, here's the Millennium Falcon. And nothing's been happening to the Millennium Falcon. And here's Han, and he's only really been being a smuggler for a while, and Chewie, and all of these characters aren't doing
I would
much.
say even the First Order.
Yeah.
Because it's just
the First Order's been
hasn't been doing anything.
Getting ready. And this is kind of their first attack. And Leia's been, she's been being a general, but there's not like a heck of a lot that has happened. Everything's kind of been at this stalemate for a while, and I think there's just real world explanations on that. It's like, we want to reintroduce you to all of those characters, and it's a new generation in real life of people that are seeing Star Wars for the first time, and I just watch it and it's like, the Millennium Falcon is back.
Right.
Han is back, and here's an adventure that he has with like the pirates, and C-3PO's back, and they say hi to each other, and they haven't seen each other for a while.
Right.
And Chewie hasn't seen Leia in a while, and Kylo Ren isn't really this big bad guy. He's like just kind of getting started. It's the whole movie is just introductions. And where is Luke? As opposed to throwing you into Episode 7, and it's like, oh, Luke has just trained like 40 Jedi,
right.
and they're fighting things, and here's the middle of a story.
The First Order has already taken over stuff, and
they started kind of at the beginning of everything, and I think that's even just why the movie is called The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Good. Well said.
Thanks. I didn't notice it the first time. Actually, watching it the first time, I didn't like the movie as much because I was actually like nervous that the movie was gonna suck. I was because nobody had seen it.
Just waiting for that thing to
Yeah,
go
I was just
wrong.
like, my stomach was not like, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck. Oh, what's happening? Who is this? I don't want you to suck, just don't suck. For 2 hours. And then I was like, okay, whew, it didn't suck.
Right.
And then the second time I was like, this is awesome. This movie's so good.
I was euphoric the first time, and I liked it equally the second time. I had a big dumb grin on my face the whole time.
Nice.
And I was crying and laughing. It was an emotional experience.
It's a lot.
I was kind of out of breath after the movie.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's just an emotional adventure.
It's such a fun ride, but did you want to say something? It looked like you wanted to say something. No, I wanted to speak to the criticism that it's similar to A New Hope.
Mhm.
Like I do think, to me, that's valid. There are a lot of similarities, but the big one to me that sticks out that one of the things about the movie that I wished would have been a little better was the battle with the space or the ship battle around Starkiller.
Okay.
The X-wings and the TIE fighters fighting and the X-wings finding the weakness and exploding the Starkiller, which was, I think that whole sequence relies a lot on A New Hope because it didn't feel very developed. It didn't feel like it felt like whenever they showed that aspect of the battle going on rather than the people on the ground, it was like, oh, here's space things happening. Here they are, some explosions and some ships flying around.
So on
now we're
Starkiller Base, it was very much like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens,
Right.
and they just kept cutting back to space stuff happening without the space
But I think
thing itself having much of a
But I don't think
progression.
there was anything for them to progress, because it's like they tried shooting the oscillator and they're like, this doesn't work. So they're just kind of like, well, I guess we're just stuck here.
Yeah.
Shooting TIE fighters.
but it didn't
until
have to be
something
that way.
happens.
It could have had its own sort of
like
narrative
their own-
going
Yeah,
on.
if you have a different story.
Yeah.
Right.
You just change the story.
Right.
Well,
Well, they're like, hey, let's try this. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, but not necessarily. I mean, they could have had like when the way they shot it, the way they cut it, it was very fast. It was very much like I don't feel what's going on here. I don't even understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like even if they are just waiting, you could have had it be like you could have had like when the Millennium Falcon when they first fly the Millennium Falcon at the beginning of the movie, that battle felt very I understood what was happening. It felt like I was into that, and I understood the good guys and the bad guys and
thinking
what
about
was
it
at
now,
stake.
when they're around Starkiller Base, there's those shots where like you're inside an X-wing and all of a sudden they're like, I'm hit, and then they explode. You don't ever really see like what shot them or like the process of the X-wing coming into the reticle of the TIE fighter about to shoot them.
I think in the making of the movie they were probably like, okay, there's a lot going on the ground, and we should just kind of gloss over the space stuff.
Yeah.
I think they consciously made that decision.
Yeah, episode 4 it was, there's a Death Star. He has plans for the Death Star. Get those plans to the rebels. Save the princess from the Death Star. We need to blow up the Death Star.
There wasn't really any ground stuff.
Yeah, this was mostly this very personal story about Han and Rey. And in that respect, I actually think it's a better movie than A New Hope. In that respect. I think A New Hope's a better movie. But in that respect, it's actually much more personal than episode 4. Because Luke's aunt and uncle dies, and he's just like, oh, that sucks. I'll go with you now.
Yeah.
And then Leia's planet gets blown up, and she's like, oh. And that's it. And it's not that personal of a movie, even though the characters are really, really likable. It's, we gotta blow up the Death Star, we gotta blow up the Death Star, we gotta blow up the Death Star.
So would you say that?
And then Luke saves the day.
Say that episode 4, people are thrown into situations. For episode 7, people choose their situations.
That was a big thing for Craig.
That was the thing that I mentioned about the movie. The first time I saw it, I realized one thing that made it so great was the fact that all the conflict, it seems like, there might be some that I'm not thinking of, but it seems like everything that people are doing, they're choosing to do. It's more powerful, I think, when that happens. I don't know if we should bring this up, but my VidCon video that we did together this year, we had to figure out, like, it was me like leaving the stage and giving up and being I'm gonna quit and the video played on stage and I just wandered through and I quit and like and people are trying to convince me to go back on stage and I'm just saying no. And we were trying to figure out what brings me back. and we were coming up with all these things, but I didn't like them because it wasn't me deciding to go back.
Yeah.
Right,
it was
I
like
see.
You had to.
I had to decide it myself. It had to come from within. So like I fell asleep and I had a dream and I dreamed about the past and then it came to me to choose to go back.
Yeah,
and I feel like
you made that choice because you liked attention.
Yeah. I liked attention. That's why I went back.
Yeah.
But that's what made all the conflicts more interesting, and all the things that happened in Force Awakens more interesting to me was that all the characters chose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Finn chose to leave the stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Rey chose. I mean, she was kind of thrown into it, I guess. But
Yeah, a little
A little
bit.
bit, but she didn't have to.
She
could've
let
sold the
BB-8
droid,
come with
yeah.
her.
and I like
She chose to keep BB-8 instead of just continue her life as normal.
Right. Yeah, and I liked how Finn. I noticed the second time watching it. I didn't notice the first time. Finn kept grabbing her hand and leading her with
Let go of my hand.
Let go of my hand. Let go of my hand. And then eventually she takes charge, and then Han and Chewie get on board, and they choose to take them.
Yeah.
And then it just feels like at every step of the way, Kylo Ren is choosing to be on the dark side.
He's actually it's actually work for him to choose that.
Yeah.
It's like I have to manually remind myself that I'm bad.
I'm feeling
Yeah.
the
and
good coming in.
choose
Go away.
the dark side.
Yeah.
Which I love.
It's not like things just happening to people and they have to do something about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I really like that. So Maz Kanata says, well, first of all, this is why I think Rey is Luke's daughter. She goes, that lightsaber used to belong to Luke Skywalker and his father before him, and now it calls to you. And so I think that's like, it was your dad's and it was your grandpa's and now it's you. But past that, then she says, she has her flash visions, and Maz is like, take it. And Rey says, I'm never touching that thing ever again, and runs away. Maz also says, close your eyes, feel the Force. And on my fifth time watching it, Maz is having this moment, and she's like, close your eyes. And it cuts to Rey, and her eyes are open.
She doesn't do it.
She doesn't close her eyes.
I noticed that the second time watching it.
And so then, later, Kylo Ren is trying to pull the lightsaber to him, and it kind of flies past him, and she catches it. Mm-hmm. And that's like probably the best, like the most heroic moment in the movie.
It got much applause.
That's the next time she decided to touch the lightsaber. So that's a big deal. And then later, she's fighting Kylo Ren, and they're fighting and whatever, and then he says to her, like, you need a teacher!
Yeah. I can show you the ways.
I can show you the ways of the Force!
That's her spot on.
And then she goes, the Force, and she kind of realizes, I've been using the Force, and she closes her eyes.
Yeah, she finally decides to listen and close her eyes.
And close her eyes, which is the only lesson that Maz had for her. Take
Which
the
is
lightsaber
weird
and close,
to do in the
close
middle
your
of a battle.
eyes.
Close your eyes.
And who knows what Kylo Ren was thinking? Just like, oh, maybe she's like thinking about me. Hi.
She's considering her options at this point in time.
She's choosing the dark side too. And then she like uses the Force, and then things get going like slow motion, and then she like sort of kind of beats him. Which
So
is
would you
awesome.
argue that Rey didn't touch the lightsaber because the moment she did touch it, she was a different person? Because she realizes that, like, oh, I'm not my old
Past
self.
Rey.
I think she kind of did it to save Finn, because Finn got his back slashed, and she saw Han die, and Maz Kanata says, like, you're back in the thick of things.
Right.
The battle, the only thing that matters, fighting the dark side. And Rey was like, no, she was choosing, no, that's not for me. I just want to go back to Jakku. I'm just waiting for my family. No. And at that point, she has to kind of decide, I'm going to be a hero. I'm actually going to do something I don't want to do. I said I was never going to touch this lightsaber ever again. Mm-hmm. I did, and I have to choose that battle, that only battle that matters, which is fighting the dark side.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting when she chose to shoot first at the stormtrooper.
Yeah, she misses.
Well, no, because the safety was on. But
Right.
like, she sees a stormtrooper and she wasn't being shot at. She just instantly goes to shoot him.
Yeah.
Then the safety's off, and then she kills him. I think was that the first guy that? She
Yeah, she had a
killed?
moment.
She has a moment of like, I just killed a guy. She's like, well, killing everyone else.
Well, I already crossed the threshold. Now it's
Yeah.
easy to kill.
Yeah. I was almost wondering if after that, when she's like really aggressively fighting Kylo Ren, is she somewhat tapping into the dark side a little bit, because she was fighting with like this hardcore aggression. She was like, "Rah!" and that made her stronger.
Watching it the second time, I noticed I felt like she was giving into the dark side.
A little bit.
I thought it was quite a bit. Like looking at her facial expression when she first decides to go after him, she's like, she had this like like evil grin on her face, or like
Yeah.
evil like, and she just like beat him down like pretty heftily, which
Yeah.
was not the way of the light
No.
side.
But I love how emotionally impactful the lightsaber fights are
Yeah.
in comparison to the prequel trilogy.
There's definitely not focus on grace and ballet
Spear-
and like,
Right.
Spitting in pirouettes.
yeah, and
It's not 5
because
minutes
it wouldn't
of
make sense for those characters either, because they're not that good at
Yeah.
fighting.
And so the
Yeah.
first time I watched it, I'm like, they're all really good.
Yeah.
Finn is good for
Finn
a
shouldn't
non-Jedi.
be that good.
And then the second, and that's a criticism that some people have. The second time I watched it, I'm like, no, Finn is terrible with a lightsaber. He fights a stormtrooper and gets his ass kicked.
Like, alright.
And with Kylo Ren, I think I counted it the fifth time I watched it. He only had like 10 swings that connected. A lot of it's like this kind of lunge, like, and it'll be like a lunge and like a block, and then they'll separate.
Right.
And then kind of like a lunge and like an attack, and then they'll separate. No one's ever like spinning. No one's ever like da 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 hit.
Right.
It's always like 1 or 2 or 3, and then we need a break.
Yeah.
We need to kind of separate.
It's also always large movements.
Yeah.
Like there's not like subtle movements.
They don't
There's
have,
like
like, the-
killing. It's like a killing blow attempt after
Yeah.
killing
And
blow attempt.
Kylo Ren is bleeding out.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah.
And
He's got some issues.
and he also.
You need a teacher.
and
You're my teacher.
Finn presumably had training with the what's it called, vibro blade or whatever.
Yeah, as a stormtrooper, kind of his
Yeah.
his little axie.
He probably had
Thing.
training with that.
Yeah.
So,
And Ren had her staff. And when she fights, she does a lot of like poke. It's a lot of
Yeah.
like,
yeah. And when she connects, she like pokes him. She
Yeah.
pokes Kylo Ren.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
I'm really hoping that when she gets her own lightsaber, that it's a double-sided thing
That would be-
to mirror
That'd
her
be
staff.
so cool.
Yeah, so
If
makes
she had a
sense.
double-bladed blue lightsaber,
Yeah.
and it like fit her. That'd be really,
That would be cool.
yeah.
That makes sense.
So with episode 8, I think there's 2 options. One, it could start right from there, right from where episode 7 ends, but I don't think it will.
I think it's gonna mirror episode 5.
Just like with her training.
Yeah, it'll be like she's training, gets a vision, has to leave, unfinished training.
Maybe.
We'll save her friends.
Okay. If they're not if they're not just remaking episode 4,
Well,
5, and 6.
I think it's gonna.
I mean, one of the biggest. I guess they already wrote the script, but one of the biggest criticisms of this one was that it mirrored 4. So I don't know if they'd want to go that
Yeah.
route.
I think it would be great with episode 5 if it just kind of starts and a year or 2 has passed. Because the way that she says to goodbye to Finn's
Right.
unconscious, and she's like, I think it's something like we'll see each other again.
Yeah.
I believe that or something. It didn't seem like a quick goodbye. It's like I'm leaving, like for a while. And I would love it if the movie just starts like a year or 2 later, and she's like this really great Jedi, and she's with Luke, and she's like, "Hey, Dad," as like the opening line of the movie. As opposed to just dragging it
Or
out.
just throw it in your face right away.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just here's my dad, and we're
My
training, and maybe she's carrying Mark Hamill on her back and flipping through trees, and he's like,
And he's talking like Yoda now.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
he didn't talk in the first one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see this tweet? Somebody tweeted at him, when you saw the script for episode 7, what was your reaction? And he replied, speechless.
Oh, was that an old tweet?
No, it was like last night.
Oh, last night.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
Speechless.
it's good.
That's clever.
Yeah.
I'd say that the ending scene is probably my favorite. The whole.
Just those shots?
No, just that last shot when Rey just like. First of all, they like see each other, and it's like, oh, that's good. And then she pulls out the lightsaber, and the way it's not like, oh, here's your lightsaber. It's
Yeah.
like there are some crazy things going on right now. We just had that, like, there's so much in this of like, you need to pick up your weapon, you need to
There's very
fight.
much like there's pleading and there's like
Yeah.
please
Please take
this.
But
this.
that-
There's a lot of suffering right now.
That-
You need this.
That's the strength of Daisy Ridley throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Is her facial expressions. Like she says a lot by saying nothing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, yeah, starting the film, it's a lot of just her scavenging in silence. Actually, her first line of the movie isn't even in English. She's like, Noma! It's like, that's not English.
Oh, that is the first line, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. She doesn't say anything for a very long
So
time.
Tito, he's a jerk. And
Yeah.
then
Not Tito.
they roll away. Where's Tito?
Just part scavenger.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. Finn's also great. I read it online. Somebody said like Finn has a lot of enthusiasm, but maybe doesn't have the skill.
Well, Finn plays the brave fool.
Yeah,
That's his
fool.
character.
I like if he's a bit like clumsy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna do it, and he just goes running. Like, well, first of all, he wasn't the brave fool. He was just scared.
Yeah.
And then he became the brave fool.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I just need to be on the most dangerous place to save Rey.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'll do whatever it needs to take.
Yeah. We'll use the Force.
We'll use the Force.
That's not how the Force works. And the way Harrison Ford, people are counting on us. The galaxy is counting on us. He like really means, you're cold?
No one can do like hilariously angry like Harrison Ford can.
It reminds me of when
Because he's just so done.
in the second Indiana Jones movie when he's covered in like bugs and it's like closing on him. He's like, "We are going to die."
Yeah, he somehow makes you laugh and also scared for him at the same time. It's really good.
Yeah, and I just like Harrison Ford saying the word galaxy. Like, there's just something about that. Like, I like that they made him say that. Like, you have to be really into Star Wars to talk. He's like, who's the moof milker that put a compression on the hyperdrive?
Moof ball.
Like, I just imagine, like, grumpy Harrison 71 being like, I have to say this? Like,
Moof
really?
milker?
And you want me to say moof milker? And JJ's like, yeah, people are gonna love it. And it's like, all right. You know? I was talking to somebody that works at Lucasfilm. I don't want to name drop, but they were on set, and they said one of their favorite moments on set is that JJ was, and this isn't in any printed material, this is a conversation I had at the premiere, and they said that JJ was directing Harrison and trying to get him, you know, with his charisma and his whatever and blah, 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 and what was in the script, Harrison kind of paused and he said, that feels more like Indiana to me. I think Han would more so do it this way. Harrison Ford said that. And there was a couple moments like that on set where he really put a lot of thought into the Han Solo character. And she was like, it gave me chills. Like, that was the best part on set.
Except for the one part where he let the Indiana Jones take over.
Yeah.
The punch.
The punch. That punch. When he's running down the hall, and it's weird watching him run because you can tell he's like kind of struggling
Old.
to run.
Yeah.
Just like, But there's a guy and he goes.
It's like a run punch.
Yeah. But that sound effect is definitely an Indiana Jones.
And then
sound effect.
And then he throws him into the mouth of the. Can we talk about that for a second? He just like brutally,
he throws first.
He brutally murdered that guy. I mean, I don't think it's out of character for Han Solo, I guess, but it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
He was like,
I don't mind.
But
I felt nothing.
I just like how he punched the guy, ran past him, was like, I got a better idea. Then turns around, grabs him, and
it's
then
like
throws
him. You already punched the guy.
Yeah.
The guy was probably dead anyway, but
here
throws him.
Well, if he was dead, I think that's less gruesome. It's like, well, you're dead anyway.
No, I mean he's gonna be dead.
Right,
like,
right.
Dead, yeah.
That pirate was punched and fed to a monster by a 73-year-old man.
That's right. Yeah.
Good.
Pretty good. Did he really slow down the monster by throwing him?
I think it filled him up a little bit.
Because he didn't want to eat Finn.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a different monster. I don't know.
And that bugged me the first couple times I saw it. It's like, those monsters are eating everybody except Finn. And that's just kind of like hero armor.
Right.
But then I watch it, and in the background, you can actually see them grab a couple guys and just kind of roll away and not eat them. I think that one guy specifically was thrown into its mouth, so it ate it right away.
Right.
But otherwise, they actually weren't just eating people, they were actually grabbing them. But it's pretty far in the background, and I didn't catch it at first. I'm like, he probably should have just ate Finn.
Right. I think they were full. There was a lot of people.
They're just saving them for later.
Yeah. It makes more sense that they were saving them for later. I like that adventure. Because I look at the movie now and I'm like, this is Han's last adventure. But Han didn't he could have just showed up, got the Falcon, they go, they blow up the Death Star, and then he dies.
Right.
They took that time in the movie, they took an extra 15 minutes to give Han and Chewie an adventure. And I liked that the movie took its time with things. There was a lot of plans that characters had that they gave up on a couple seconds later. Like, that happened a lot. Like, they're like, oh, the gas leak, and she's like, he goes, did you fix the gas leak? Yeah, can you unfix it? And the plot is like, oh, we're gonna poison the people that are coming over, and then they just don't.
They also never even did it in time.
Yeah, and Finn is like, I'm gonna leave. And that moment, you're like learning about Finn in that moment. Like he wants to run, I'm gonna leave, and he doesn't leave. And I can picture when you're writing a script and it's like, we need to make this tighter. Well, you could just have him not even go to leave, and we could save a couple minutes. Oh, or Daisy she's going to run into the forest. Well, okay, now she saw the TIE fighters and now she's coming back. Well, let's save time and not have her run into the forest. She doesn't do that.
Or
but they take the time to have characters make mistakes and change their mind.
Or the other way, they had the plot of this is going to happen, but they're like, there's not enough character development here, so let's make them try to do other things and fail.
Yeah. I like characters being, I'm going to do this. No, I'm not.
But it makes sense because Finn, the whole movie up to that point, has always wanted to run. He's like, why do you want to go back to Jakku? Like, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And then he has a moment to get out, and he takes it.
Yeah.
On this most recent viewing, I thought it was interesting that it seems like the reason that they get hit in the TIE fighter at the beginning and crash on Jakku is because he's so annoyed that they are going back to Jakku. If he just like kept paying attention to
because there's 4 missiles, he blows up 2 of them.
He's like, why are we going back to Jakku? And that's when they get hit.
You can hear in the background the missile coming coming closer because the beeping. It's like
I noticed that this time.
beep,
The beeps get
beep,
faster and
beep,
faster.
beep, beep, beep.
He doesn't blow up the missiles.
Yeah.
I noticed, and this is such a small attention to detail, but when Poe gets in the TIE fighter, he gets in and takes off his jacket.
He does do
Just really quickly, and it's just it barely happens. But so then it makes sense later when he like looks in and the jacket's there, and he throws the jacket off.
What about this though? Finn, he's leaving. It's never really explained why he's leaving the stormtrooper. He doesn't want to be a stormtrooper anymore. But I'm fine with that. It could be explained later. Or
it was his first mission.
It was his first mission, and he just saw what happened, and he didn't like what was going down. But he had no problem then gunning down his colleagues immediately after they get into the TIE fighter.
Yeah, and he's just like, well, I didn't want to kill anybody, so I just killed like 30 of my troop
He didn't want to
mates.
kill innocent people.
Yeah, but
if you're just stormtroopers walking around on a Star Destroyer, you're kind of innocent.
You can make the argument that he was defending himself because they were shooting at him, but they were shooting at him because he was escaping.
I think he was more, he wanted to kill the stormtroopers because he didn't like what they stood for anymore.
Yeah, so then that makes me think maybe it wasn't that he was against all the violence and the things he was seeing, it was more that he just was against the First Order.
Yeah, right. And so this is expanded universe stuff, but there's this book that's out now, Before the Awakening, and it just came out on Friday, and it's leading up to episode 7. It's not a particularly good book. It's 3 short stories. It's not a big long. So there's a short story about Finn. It's only 40 or 50 pages, but really he was taken as a child and lived his entire life with only First Order propaganda. Only. So he's only ever told that, the Republic or the Resistance are these kind of bad things, and they're kind of lawless, and they are there to provide law, to provide order. And so he's going on his first mission, and he's kind of excited about it. It's they're bad and they have no laws, and we're gonna go and we're gonna kind of establish a government here. And that's what he was told, and that's what he believed. And then he shows up, and then he sees his own guys dying, and he's just kind of mortified by war. And then he sees these innocent villagers being slaughtered. And in the book, it was those innocent villagers, from the Imperial's perspective, or the First Order's perspective, they were harboring a traitor. They were harboring, plans that are ours. And he just sees through that. Mm-hmm. And that reminds me, I love how much they show the Imperial's perspective when Rey wakes up and she's like, where are my friends? And he goes, oh, do you mean the murderers and thieves and traitors you call friends?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then the Stormtrooper's like, traitor! And then later, then he's like, traitor! They really mean it.
Yeah. It still brings up questions to me, though, has there ever been other traitors? Why Finn? Why did he have an awakening?
Well, I'm sure there were, because they sent Finn to get to conditioning. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like they had a system in place for when someone starts to deviate from the path.
Yeah.
And then I think on his way to conditioning is when he's like, I'm done with this.
Yeah. I think he's on his way to conditioning, and he actually doesn't.
Yeah. Is he just happened to be an awesome dude who just quits?
So. I think so.
Or I don't think he's an awesome dude that quits. I think he's just so afraid that he just...
Could be.
I think it's both. Yeah, because then he's like, it's the right thing to do.
But then he kills all his friends.
I need a pilot.
And he kills all his friends, which we can accept, I guess, because we're used to seeing stormtroopers die on screen.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to kill people as he was escaping. that fuel line or whatever was stuck on the TIE fighter, and then they started getting shot at.
But he
and
did-
then it's like, oh.
But he did
I
look
need
like
to
he was
go
having
off.
a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
doing it. So,
Did you see that?
Yeah.
You just killed 30 people.
yeah.
They happened to be running a turbo
I think
laser.
You probably have ate lunch with those guys.
Yeah.
But I think
I don't
that
mind
his
that.
hatred
Yeah.
for the First Order kind of grew really quickly.
Yeah, and it was his choice to
Yeah.
leave the First Order, and that's, we've never seen anything like that before, and it starts humanizing the stormtroopers, and makes them kind of awesome, and unlike episode 4, 5, and 6, where the stormtroopers don't really hit much, or 1, 2, and 3, where the droids don't really ever do any damage, the movie starts with, here's a bunch of stormtroopers showing up and just wrecking stuff. Just this village is done, and they've got flames, and they're just killing people.
So
and
there's a couple things.
They're almost more evil than the Empire.
This is the first time you ever see a stormtrooper without his helmet on?
We see clone troopers without their helmet on, but
Yeah,
stormtrooper, pretty much.
stormtrooper.
Han and Luke, are
They're
in
the only
stormtrooper.
ones.
They're
That's
the only
it.
one, but
Yeah.
but they're
But
not.
yeah.
They're not a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought is Finn is actually really good with the blaster.
Yeah.
When, like, soon as he after Maz's place gets all destroyed, he picks up the lightsaber, but then immediately just like grabs a blaster, and then it just nails all his shots.
He's trained.
He's trained.
Although most stormtroopers aren't very good with a blaster.
Yeah.
In the older movies.
older
In this new one, they're good.
Pretty good.
They're pretty good. But, well, Han doesn't really seem to get shot. Or most.
He's
of
also
the,
Han.
Most of the main
He-
characters don't.
And that's a joke, because he can go bang, bang, and not even look. And just bang.
I like
yeah,
that.
got him.
I like that.
I also liked how
Because he's Han.
when they're on Jakku, and Finn never fired his blaster, and I didn't notice this until the second or third watching, when they get on a ship and the Captain Phasma was like, report your blaster for inspection. I was like, why would you say that? I'm like, oh wait, because he never fired once, so they're
Yeah.
like, oh, is your blaster
There's probably like a
broken?
number
Like,
on it.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't shoot.
Yeah, why didn't you shoot? Clearly it's your blaster, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't not shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we love shooting stuff.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are disappointed that Captain Phasma isn't in it much, that Poe isn't in it much, but I think that's the fault of marketing. Like, for a year, there's been epic trailers and toys and t-shirts and posters for Phasma and Poe.
And Flame Trooper.
But ignore that. Go back to the script that was probably laid out 2 years ago. Go into the movie without seeing any of that and read the script. And it was like, oh, Phasma's in it a little bit. Whoop-de-doo. And yeah, they can take that and they can market it, but Phasma's in it a little bit. Whoop-de-doo. It's not really the movie's fault
It's also not.
that we watched we saw a bunch of marketing for the past year.
It also happens all the time. Like Boba Fett, for instance,
Where?
in Empire Strikes Back.
Where?
Where?
Boba Fett.
Well, the way he has become such a huge character outside of Star Wars movies, but he's not. He does practically nothing in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, he does capture Han, but in terms of like...
But he doesn't even capture Han. He just
Right.
reports that
That's
this
true.
is.
Okay.
Han
there's-
went to Bespin.
Han went to. He stands there. He's got a rocket on his back, and Vader's like, hey, why don't you guys go? He's among others, and there's another guy standing next to him who I had an action figure of who doesn't do. The only scene he's in is this one where they're standing in line. Vader's like, hey, go find Han for me, and then a shot of him in a ship. I don't even know what's in the re-release and what isn't, but a shot of him in the ship.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there he is. He's going this way.
And then you just follow
And then follows him,
And
that's it. That's his entire role.
And then
What?
Vader is there, and Han's like, and then
But
you
at
just see
least-
Boba Fett walk forward.
But at least Boba
you don't
Fett
even
is
say
a
his name
threat.
in
No.
that movie.
No.
Don't even say his name.
Oh, they don't?
And,
But he's a perceived threat. They
But-
like establish him as like,
but
oh, he's out
in it
there.
less
But
than
but
Phasma.
barely.
He's in it less than Phasma.
He's in it less Phasma, but he's
Uh,
still like the audience knows that he is being hunted by, like Han is being hunted
thing.
by a
A
villain.
thing.
But I really think the only reason he became such a big character is because he looked cool. He had a rocket
Yeah,
on his
he
back,
did
and
look
he had
cool.
armor.
And he said
then-
very little.
Yeah, and he said practically nothing, and
Yeah.
and I don't have a problem with it, but I think this also brings up a frustration I have with The Force Awakens, not the movie, but the reaction to it. Everyone basically wrote a full review of the movie when they saw the first trailer. Like they're like, I saw comments where people like, I can't believe how much exposition was in this movie. Like I saw comments like that based on the trailer. Like it was what they thought the movie was going to be, and they
Yeah.
wrote these entire reviews.
Yeah.
And then they build up these characters in their mind like
Yeah.
they know them so well.
Yeah.
And then when they see them actually, how that movie actually is,
Yeah.
they get disappointed.
The trailer is only The trailer only exists to get you to spend money to go to the theater. That is the only reason a trailer exists, and that's Disney saying we need your money because this movie cost us a lot of money to make and we want to make way more than we spent on it. So they release trailers. Otherwise, JJ and Michael Arndt and Lawrence Kasdan, they don't worry about that. They write a movie that they hope is good. And then there's backstory, and there's, yeah, sure, we can hand this off and this can be marketable, I guess. My concern is the movie. Is the movie good? And I can imagine maybe seeing trailers for The Empire Strikes Back, and maybe, who knows if Boba Fett was in them, I'm sure he wasn't, but if he was, and you go into The Empire Strikes Back with all this expectation...
I bet they sold action figures of Boba Fett before the movie came out.
They did.
Yeah.
They did do that.
Yeah, there's action figures for Force Awakens and characters that didn't make it into the movie.
Yeah, a lot of the Jakku aliens have little toys, and they're literally not in the movie at all.
See, I don't understand the problem with Phasma's character. I think it's just because of expectation.
Yeah, because it's like when you have a character action figure, you figure they're going to be significant to the plot.
Yeah.
Phasma's not significant to a plot, but as the captain, that's what she would do. She would be in charge of the troops. That's what she would do. She wouldn't be the captain of the troops and then go fly away to go do something.
And because of the trailers, the first time I watched The Force Awakens, not knowing what was going to happen next, Poe escapes with Finn, and then their TIE fighter gets blown up and it crashes, and then it sinks into the sand and explodes. And they really convince you, like, he's like, Poe, and he gets his jacket. If I hadn't seen the trailers, I would actually think, like, Poe, like, probably didn't make it. I would think maybe he's still alive, probably, but then when he goes to BB-8, and then an hour goes by, and that guy's definitely not coming back, and they leave Jakku, and the story is definitely not taking place on Jakku anymore, I would just kind of forget about him. I would just be like, okay.
First time through, I did forget.
I forget he exists. But I had seen the trailer, and I had known he was flying an X-Wing, and he's like, whoa! In the trailer. And so then, when he came back, I wasn't like, oh, he's alive? I was like, oh yeah, him. He's totally still alive.
Right. Yeah.
And it didn't surprise me at all.
I don't think it would have surprised me either way, because he was in the opening scene of the movie, and they don't show his actual physical body dead. Yeah. So I would have assumed he'd been alive, but I probably would have forgot about it.
They don't show Han Solo's physical body dead.
Right.
But he does get stabbed with a lightsaber, fall really far, and then that planet explodes into a star.
I would be disappointed in the writers if they brought him back.
Yeah, it's Han Solo comes back.
He falls down the pit into a ship that just happens to take off and has a med bay on it.
So that reminds me of a thing that I thought last night. For all of the promotion of Episode 7, subtly, in that first cast photo that ever came out when they did the script read, that black and white photo, that script read photo, Mark Hamill was in that photo.
I brought that up to China. Like, what did he do at that?
Mark Hamill flew to London, got in really great shape. He did some marketing and promotion. He didn't go and do talk shows, but like there's like making of videos that he's in with his beard, and he's on set, and he's in some of the magazines. Time did like a piece on him. Like this like multi-page piece is like, here's Mark Hamill, and he went to the script read, and he was on set like a bunch. And I think they were like, well, if we don't have a photo of Mark Hamill in the script read, everyone's gonna notice.
Yeah.
So they had to do this long con. They were like, we have a year and a half where we need you to stick around, because people are gonna notice if you're in like LA chilling and everyone else is in London.
Right.
So we need you to come to London for no
one of his
reason
Mark Hamill parties,
other than to just trick people to say, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford are back, when really you're in like 4 shots.
And someone else brought up that since Star Wars has made such a name for himself as a voice actor, he doesn't have any voice in this movie at all.
But he's in the trailer a bunch. You know, the Force is strong in my family. My father has it.
That scene's in it when he puts his hand.
He puts his hand on R2 in Rey's flashbacks.
Yeah. So clearly, if you go before Episode 7. When Kylo Ren or Ben killed everyone. You can see he does the whole like Princess Leia, you're my only hope thing. Gives stuff to R2 and then
pieces out.
I'd love to keep talking, but I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. I think we're good.
Oh, we're gonna end?
I think we're done.
Oh,
okay. You can go to the bathroom. I think
May
we're
the
good.
force be with you.
Thanks for hanging out. This is how we talk, not on camera.
Yeah, pretty much.
Actually, just like this, sitting on the couch like this.
Maybe a few more swear words thrown in.
Yeah, I don't swear on camera. But yeah, thanks for hanging out and watching. If you watched this whole thing, thank you.
I would say go see the movie, but if you
I
watch
really,
this, probably already
really
seen it,
liked
so.
the movie a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, rating?
And I'm first. Let me clarify. I try not to be someone who buys into hype. I try to be someone. In fact, I'm overly critical of my own opinions.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot, and I really, really like this movie.
Yeah, I was really critical the first couple times. When I wrote my tweet, I was like, I think it's maybe an 8 or a 9. And I was trying to be cautious of myself.
Right.
Even though I was like, I'm at the world premiere, and I just met J.J. Abrams, and this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me, and this is probably the best movie in cinematic history ever. No one's ever made a better movie ever. That was what's in my heart.
That was what I thought too.
And my brain was like, okay, chill. There's a couple flaws. Let's peck away at the 10 and get maybe an 8. But now I'm like, man, it's really, 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 really good.
I still think I need more time to be fully sure how good it is, but right now I'm thinking 8.5.
Nice.
Oh, 8.5.
Nice.
I'd probably give it a 9.2.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah. At first it was I gave it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then the second watching, I was like, okay, maybe it's more like an 8.5. Now I'd say it's 9.
Specifically
For me-
9.2.
for me-
9.2.
For me personally, I mean, I want to give it an 11.
Right.
But if I'm recommending it to just anyone, I guess I would say 8.5.
There's actually quite a bit of it that I enjoy more than A New Hope.
Okay.
And at first I was, my order was like, The Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, probably The Force Awakens, and I think it's creeping up past A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's a better version of A New Hope than A New Hope, because it is
that was
totally
gonna be what I was
A New
gonna say,
Hope.
yeah.
But like the pacing and stuff, there are parts of A New Hope that are kind of a little
slow,
boring.
yeah.
Some of the acting that's kind of a little weak.
I would say Rey puts it over the top.
Yeah.
Like Rey, or Daisy Ridley, her character, her acting is like, it's so engaging.
Yeah.
You see her facial expressions, you're like, I feel what she's feeling right now.
Yeah.
You don't really feel what Mark Hamill's feeling in
No.
New Hope.
No.
And when Leia's planet blows up,
You're
You're
sad.
just kinda like,
You're not
eh.
super sad.
I don't even think I was sad. As a kid, I was like,
Yeah.
It was a blue circle, and then it exploded.
It's just
And
every
that's about
time I watch the movie, I like a lot smaller things more and more.
Yeah.
Like I think you were saying, Rey doesn't need anyone. She's just like she's got everything under control.
Yeah.
And then like Finn just shows up and just messes everything up. It's just like, I had everything under control, and then you show up and you're causing a ruckus.
And he's
a
trying to
ruckus,
hold
and
her
I'm
hand.
still in control of the situation.
And even on Starkiller Base, she was fine alone. She got herself. She wasn't like a traditional,
No.
female character they need to go rescue. Finn is almost kind of sexist. He's like, I'm gonna take your hand. I gotta go rescue you, and she rescues herself.
It's like, stop
And
holding
Finn.
my
Yeah.
hand!
Yeah, and she rescues Finn.
Yeah.
But she says like you came back for me,
Right.
and no one has ever come back for her in her life.
It's true.
Yeah.
And he went to like go save her, which is pretty cool.
Things
But-
like that just slowly creep up my rating.
Yeah.
Your rating?
I prefer the out of 5 rating. So
Okay.
if I'm doing that, I would do 4 out of 5. But if I was forced to go out of 10, I would probably say 9.
Forced?
Forced.
So
Yeah.
would you give it a 4.5 out of 5, or can you not do that?
Not allowed.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Corrado?
9.2.
9.2.
Again, maybe I should
Right,
have
right.
added decimals when I gave my rating.
Yeah.
But
I'm getting more and more up there all the time.
I actually, it's hard for me. I'm thinking it's probably, in the ranking of Star Wars, probably just below A New Hope right now, but it could creep past.
It was just below A New Hope for like the first 4 watchings, but now I'm thinking like the pacing,
What a funny thing
the
to say.
pacing and editing I think is actually better than A New Hope.
Well, New Hope was also
And
70s,
acting.
and the movies were slower.
Movies
back
were
then.
slower back then.
So,
But pacing, editing, acting, I can see myself putting on The Force Awakens more than I would put on A New Hope.
right.
Probably because you've seen A New Hope 800 times.
Yeah,
But
but I've also seen The Force Awakens 5 times in a week.
yeah, it's true.
And I'm still not sick of it. I'm sitting there and going, I love every scene, and I wish it was longer.
I'm looking forward to someday when I have kids, sitting them down and making them watch 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
And then if they want to hurt themselves, they can go watch the prequels if they want.
Right.
I'll let them do that on their own time.
Right.
But right now I feel very confident in the continuity of 4, 5, 6, 7. I feel like it works
Me too.
perfectly.
Me too.
Yeah.
Alright, okay. Thanks for watching. Thanks for spending
Thanks
all
for
this time
watching.
with us. We're gonna drive 8 hours from Chicago to Nashville and go watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
It's
ready.
noon.
it's noon.
and
it's
the
a-
movie is at 8:30.
I'm probably gonna go eat something or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was fun. Thanks for accommodating us.
No problem.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.